All right, the goal is to find all the zeros. How many answers should we get for this one? 3, good, because that's the degree, the highest power, we should get 3 answers. So here's what you want to do. Go to y equals on your calculator and type that in. And I'm going to say the next step. I know you're probably not done yet, but don't hit graph, hit zoom 6. That will put the window back to standard, zoom 6. And that way, if someone had zoomed in before or changed the window, it'll put it back to standard. So you always want to start with standard. And we should get something that looks like this. I'm going to wait until I kind of get confirmation from everybody that we're all on the same page. Because if you don't get there, then you won't be able to do the next step. So we're all here. Or is yours good? Oh, okay. So here's the unfortunate thing. None of those 3 land on a nice whole number. So we're going to make the calculator calculate the first one for us. Okay. Do you remember what menu we go to for calculate? Yeah, second trace. It says calc right above it. It's the button that says trace. So second trace will open that menu. So second trace. What do you want to choose out of that list? 0. So go down to choice 2, choose 0. It's going to ask you left bound, right bound, guess. So look, this 0 right here looks like it's in between what 2 whole numbers? 0 and what? Perfect. So for left bound, you're going to hit 0, enter. For right bound, you're going to hit 1, enter. And then for guess, you can type any number your heart desires between 0 and 1. So what do you want to try and type? 0.2, 0.5, 0.3, 0.9. It doesn't matter. As long as it's in between, hit enter, and it will tell you the answer. Did you get 0.25? Okay, what is that in fraction form? 1/4 goes in the little box. And when you divide it out, what will the remainder be? It will be 0. So go ahead and divide that out. I'm going to. So we got 0.25, that's 1/4. That goes in the little box. And when we divide it out, we will get 0. Is the countdown in order? Yes, so we don't need any zeros here. All right, so 1/4 times 4. 1, good. Add the column, -32. 1/4 of -32, that'll be -8. Add the column, 44. 1/4 of 44 is 11. Add the column, you get 0. Oh. Now all of those will divide by 4. So let's reduce them and make the number smaller. It'll be 1, -8, 11. Now this was to the third. So when we put the variables back, we're going to start with what? Squared. You always need to get it down to squared. So if you start with cubed, you have to divide out once. So off to the side here, we're going to have 1x squared minus 8x plus 11 equals 0. And you're going to solve that just like you did on your quiz. So first step is subtract the 11. And then what would you add to both sides to complete the square? 16, perfect. So this will be something squared. What's the something? X minus 4. And then on this side, 5. Square root, you will get plus and minus square root of 5. And then last step, add 4. Now, how many answers is that? That's 2, but we're supposed to have 3. So the other one is the 1/4. So you want to make sure you get the total of answers that you're supposed to have. Go ahead. You don't necessarily have to, but it's easier to deal with smaller numbers. So that's why I reduce them. It's kind of like reducing a 5/10 to a 1/2. Like you just want to deal with smaller numbers. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I just feel like it creates more room for error. Correct. But anytime you have a fraction here, you will be able to reduce them. All right, let's try another one. This is what we're doing today is practice. But I feel like I would rather do that, work kind of hard to get through the material and then have a whole day where you can practice. Like, because now today is going to be relatively relaxed. So what you want to do is go to y equals, clear it out, type that one instead. We're trying to get one of the zeros to start us out. Because otherwise you don't know what to put in the little box. You could sit there and guess numbers all day, I suppose, until you got a remainder of 0.
Add it into the problem or
no, you're going to put a, well, I guess sort of, yes. You're going to put a 0 placeholder there.
like right now?
Well, let's find the 0 first, like what goes in the little box. And then when we write it out, yes, there will be a 0. So hit zoom 6. And you should get something that looks like that. Now this one, hallelujah, lands nicely on a whole number. Yay! So we don't have to do that whole calculate left bound, right bound guess thing. So where does this one hit the x-axis? -2 goes in the little box. And that's the point of using the calculators to get you started. And so here's where the countdown is not in order. So we're going to have 1, 0, 6, 20. And you should get a 0 remainder, and not should, you will get a 0 remainder, or you had a mistake somewhere. Now everybody's working away and I can't tell like where you are. You might be ahead of me. I don't know. When we put the x's back in, what are we going to start with? Get x squared. So did you get 1, -2, 10? Okay, x squared minus 2x plus 10 equals 0. And you're going to do the exact same steps we did here to complete the square. So subtract over the 10. And then what do you add to both sides? Good, 1. 1 can be a little tricky because 1 squared is 1. So this will be x minus 1 squared equals -9 square root. And what is your square root of -9? Good. And then add over the 1. And I want to talk about that real quick on the graph. Do you see how this hits at -2? Like that's a real answer. Why are the other ones imaginary? Like what about the graph tells you, hey, those are going to be imaginary? There aren't any. So they have to be imaginary. So when you do a problem like this, you go, oh, -2 is the only real one. I should get I in my other answers. And so you can use that to check your work. We got these 2 and then also x equals -2. So a total of 3 answers. Okay, I just want to make sure we're good before I write up the next one. I think I'm going to have you guys try this one. I'll get you started. First of all, how many answers will there be? 4. And that means you have to divide out twice. Good. Because you have to get it down to a square. So you're going to have to divide out twice. So go ahead to y equals, type it in. I'll get you to the graph and like get you started. And then I'm going to be quiet and let you guys actually try this one. Is that enough? Did you get something that looks like this? Okay. Now we want to find where this touches the x-axis. This one is unfortunately not on a nice whole number. This one is also unfortunately not on a nice whole number. But this one is, you don't want to have to calculate unless you have to. Where does this one hit the x-axis? So you will put 3 in the little box, but then you're going to have to divide out a second time. You get to divide 3 out again. Why do you get to do 3 twice? Because it's a bounce, right? So your multiplicity is 2. It's a twin. So 3 will go in the little box, divide it out, you should get 0, and then do 3 again. And I'm going to pause the recording and give you a couple minutes to work on that, and then I'll put the answer up here. Yes, and again, why did we get to do 3 twice? Because it's a bounce. That means multiplicity of 2. Did you get to here? Okay, so we divided out twice. What power are we going to start with? Good, x squared plus no x's. So you can write plus 0x, or you can just skip that. And then minus 2 equals 0. So what would you do to start solving that? Add 2. We don't even need to complete the square for this one because it turned out a little bit simpler. And then square root. So you should get x equals plus and minus square root of 2. That's 2 answers, but we should have a total of 4. So what are the other 2? And 3. Miss Cole, do we have to write those twice? Yes. Twins count as 2 people. If you don't put both of them, you don't get the total of 4 like you're supposed to. Is it starting to sink in like more and more we do? Yeah. It is a drill and practice thing. All right, so go back to y equals, clear it out, type the new equation. So do you get something that looks like this? Yep. There's nothing there. Where does it touch the x-axis? Nowhere. That means all of the answers are what? Imaginary. And how many answers, imaginary answers, will we get? 4. There is a graph, just where is it? Look at this. Good, it's up 36, so it's up here somewhere. So if I changed the window, like if I raised the ceiling on that, here, let me make it 100. Then you'll be able to see it. It was just outside of that standard window. But the point is, it doesn't touch the x-axis. So this is no help. The calculator is no help to you. What you're going to do is set it equal to 0 and factor it. You can't do a synthetic division because there is no number to put in the little box. So that method is not going to work. You have to try something else. So how would you split x to the 4th? X squared. And then you need to split 36. So you want to come up with numbers that multiply together to be 36. Now we have 6 times 6, but we need them to add to be 13. So that's 7 won't go into 36. 9 times 4, there we go. And good, yes, why will they both have to be pluses? Yeah. And because the 36 is positive, they're all positive. And then what you're gonna do is take each of those and make them equal 0 and solve to get your answers. So for the first one, you would subtract 9 and then square root. So what do we get from that one? Good, plus and minus 3i, perfect. And then the other one, you're going to subtract 4 square root, and that one will give us what? Plus and minus 2i. So they're all imaginary. And did we get 4? Yes. And I get some people that write them out all separately, like x equals 3i, x equals negative 3i, you know, so on and so forth, to show that there's 4 of them. That's like satisfying for them. So if you're one of those people, just go ahead and write it out. No one looks at the paper. I've got it facing me.
Wait, so are we writing this down now?
I don't know that I would necessarily write the problem. I would just write out the synthetic division. So this is the first number that goes in the little box. That's why I told you to put the calculators up. I'm going to get you started. Hey, third person in the row, when it gets to you, that's the number you'll divide out. All right, so we're going to put -2 in the little box. The countdown is in order. Also, you do want to pay attention because you only did one step, and you know, on your test, you're going to have to do the whole problem, right? All right, and then the other one I gave you is 1. So this will be x squared minus 2x minus 6 equals 0. Add over the 6. What do you add to both sides? 1. So that'll be x minus 1 squared equals 7 square root. Add over the 1. That's 2 answers. What are the other 2? The ones that were given to you in the first place. Okay, are you ready for the second one? Okay. Third person in the row, this is the number you will divide out. That is a -1/3. All right, so -1 goes in the little box. There is something missing in the countdown. Where do I need a 0? You do not have any X's. All right, I'm going to bring the 3 down. All right, now -1/3. These will all divide by what? Put the phones away. We're reviewing. I'm going to hand you a test at some point, all right? What do these all divide by? 3. That'll give us 1, -4, 1. We're going to start with x squared plus 1 equals 0. We're going to subtract over the 1. What do we add to both sides? 4. This will be x minus 2 squared equals 3. Square root, and then add over the 2. And then your other two answers are the -1 and the -1/3. All right, we're gonna do one more. All right, we're gonna put 2 in the little box off to the side. The remainder will come out to be 0. And then 2 again. So I didn't have you graph this, but if you were to graph it, what would happen at 2? It would bounce. All right, so we're gonna start with x squared. It's 1x squared plus no x's plus 25. What would you do to both sides? All right, subtract 25, square root, you will get plus and minus 5i. And then also 2, and then also 2. You do have to write that twice.